This is Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. Make the time to subscribe. Now let's pull back those sheets.
Can we talk about the relationships? Can we talk it over, see how we can build? Only you and I know that's the way it goes. In this big old bed, they'll talk it over, so talk it over. Can we talk it over? We can talk it over. Can we talk it over in bed? Talk it over. Can we talk it over? Can we talk it over? Oh, in bed.
Yo, it's your man Big O back for another episode of Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. You can find us on talkitover.show, on Instagram, and on the web. So how's everybody doing this lovely day to time? I hope you got your clocks moved forward, because where I'm at, I know that daylight savings time is not universal, but we done lost an hour. Trish, where are you at today?
Hey, I'm at home. I told you I wasn't going no place after my vacation. I meant that.
How many more weeks you got? I might be joining you.
Like 3. Oh my God, it can't come soon enough. Yes.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. And then I am gone for a little under a week, and I'm looking forward to it. So I literally have been sitting still, which I know is hard.
Long as you're back on time to help me out here, because you going during the taping, I might be like, we're gonna skip today.
Listen, don't worry. I'm gonna have a backup.
Okay. I know you're gonna come back with some stories as well, knowing how you do.
Will. You listen, I always gotta bring y'all a story. I got one for y'all today. I will get into that in a little bit though. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let me bring everybody else on in here. So a returning guest who is welcome sight to be back, Miss Anjali. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
We're doing great. So did you get your clock moved forward, or are you still on the yesterday's time?
I got every digital clock moved forward because it did it itself. But anything that was manually done, I'm on yesterday's time.
Got you. All right. Well, glad that you're back with us and can't wait to get your input. Miss Rhea, how are you today? I'm coming over to you.
All is well on my end. I did not know that today we were supposed to push our clocks ahead until literally you guys said something.
Did you have clients today? Were they calling you?
No, Sunday. I never see clients on Sunday, so thankfully, no.
All right. Good. And for everybody that doesn't know, Rhea, I'm gonna let you tell it.
So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in New York State. I have the privilege of doing private practice and just helping people become their absolute best versions of themselves.
And they can find you on Instagram at The Black Therapist, BLK.
Yes, that'd be me. Yep.
Just ask a brother. Where you at? I know you're in the house.
I'm here. What's going on, Big O?
What's happening? Glad to have you with us. How are you?
Good to be here. Yes, I
ready to dig in with me?
Yeah, I got that clock, moved ahead. It's something interesting. All this year, I've been falling asleep early, earlier than I never do. And so then I woke up right at the time change. And then I'm up for like the rest of the night.
Oh, wow. Did that freak you out, or did you know what was going on when you woke up?
I knew what was going on,
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. But it was good.
Cool. Glad to have you with us. And then also, last but definitely not least, the illustrious Mr. Hassan. Brother Hassan, how are you? Peace and blessings.
My brother, peace to all. Great day. Me as well. I wasn't aware of the time change, but I was up all night. So I thought I was going to sleep at 5, but it was 6. So I didn't go to sleep until 6 a.m.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Big
Night
day,
owl.
I'm up at 10, so I'm a little groggy right now, but I'm here.
Burning the midnight oil. Gotcha.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, we also have with us today on today's taping a guest listener. Goes by the name of Ifatine. He's out in Philly. Oh, there he is. We got you.
You hear me good?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I'm out
Welcome
here
to
trying
the
to do it
show.
in the full too, see if it's possible. We testing. I might have to get a mic, some audio. We're gonna trial and error, see how it goes. How's everything with everybody?
Okay. Everybody's good. Welcome.
Glad to hear that. Thank you.
So if I'm not mistaken, you're going to be our man in the streets, right? We're going to actually try a new segment where we're going to actually take the topic out into the world during the taping and get, some perspectives on anybody that's willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see how that goes today. I'm in New York City, with the quarantine is slowly picking back up again. People starting to come out and it's getting there. We're starting to see some motion.
Good. Glad to hear. All right, Trish, you want to do the honors of reading from 365 from Brother Hassan's 365 Success and Inspirations today?
Absolutely. And I missed it last week. I have it so I can always, pull it up. But so we're on day 72 of the year, y'all. Well, by the time y'all get this, it'll be day 74, but we just gonna go with 72. Today's Success Inspiration 365 is struggle creates strength. How bad do you want it?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Woo. That's a heavy one.
Yeah, I think everybody on this call at some point in time can admit to, going through that struggle and just kind of getting through it. You know what I mean? Got to come out the other side in order to grow from it. So that's a good one. Yeah.
That is life's test. That life's test is to see exactly like you said, how bad do you want it? Because there's only certain things that you're going to fight for.
Yeah.
And that's life's way of saying, hey, what is the real and what is just a wish?
Yeah.
I like that one. Thank you, Brother Hassan, for that one. That is awesome. And also those we're reading for one day, but those success and inspirations are 365, which means there's one for every day. So feel free to hit them up, get you a copy. Trish.
Yes.
Before we get into the topic, how's Love Corner going?
Oh my God, Love Corner is going so well. Jen and I have recorded and we talked about quite a few different topics.
Y'all get into the nitty gritty?
Yeah. We over here. Listen, Jen is so funny and she's so sweet. And so knowledgeable.
Nice.
I know she just recently put out a what is it? She has a workshop seminar, it's like a 2 or 3 month series that she's putting out. Yeah, that just dropped. So she's working on that. She's out here living her best life. But she's so sweet. So yeah, we got some good stuff coming to you guys. I think a new episode is dropping on Thursday at 6. I think we had some technical difficulties last week, Thursday, but it should be up on Talk It Over's Instagram now. So if anybody wants to check it out. Keep those questions coming because Jen and I both will sit down and talk about it. We'll address any questions. So listeners, y'all got any questions y'all want to ask in the Love Corner? It's going to be me and our resident love coach, Jen Infantino. Drop it in our DMs on Instagram at talkitover.show. And we'll get to them as quickly as we can.
Nice. All right, let's bring in the topic of the day. Let's get this ball rolling.
Hey guys, it's Trish from Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. So when we recorded this episode, I told a story. You guys know I'm full of stories and I love sharing my experiences with you guys, things that I've been through and experienced in my 37 years. Well, this story, unfortunately, I've decided I don't want to actually share, and we are not going to share it, but I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this podcast. So back to our regularly scheduled program. Enjoy.
So that's a way to bring in the topic, conflict resolution and conflict avoidance styles. Like everybody has them. It sounds like yours is. And it was funny when you first brought that in, you said, what are your conflict styles? And I was thinking conflict styles are dependent on the situation, on the context, right? Like I could have multiple styles depending on what the actual conflict is, depending on the situation and the, as we say, context is key. But who should we go to first? Who do we want to hear from to dig into this?
Well, before we do that, let's just list out the conflict styles. So there's actually 5 conflict styles that are documented. 1 is avoiding the conflict. 2 is giving in. 3 is standing your ground. Then we have 4 is compromising, and 5 is collaborating. Okay. So knowing those 5 styles, so collaborating, compromising, standing your ground, giving in, and avoiding. Those are the 5 conflict styles. I say we start with, let's just go down the list. Anjali, do you have any, do you know your conflict styles? And what is your avoidance style? Like, how do you manage that? How do you handle that?
I don't know if it's any of them. I feel like there's a 6th one that I just run straight into conflicts. Like, I move right in.
So you take the direct approach.
So maybe number 3, where it's more of stand your ground, but I hate to say it, I'm a little bit of a combative individual. But it takes a lot for me to get there. Your story actually reminded me of a story that happened to me like a year ago when
Were you in Buffalo too?
No,
I said, were you in Buffalo too?
No.
Okay.
No, this was in Manhattan.
Does it involve a mechanic as well?
No, this random dude on the street that I didn't even know. I was coming out of work and he was walking in the opposite direction. I've never seen this guy before in my life. He came in and he grabbed at me and he actually made contact. And I remember, when I moved to New York, growing up in a small town, like those kind of things, it rarely happens, when that shit happens. But, since I moved to a bigger city, not that the expectation is there that it is going to happen, but emotionally, I prepared myself for the probability to be higher than if I was in a smaller town. So it's not the first time something like that happened to me on the street, but it was the first time that I got real angry about it. So the guy grabbed at me and it took me that second of just what the hell just happened? Sorry, I cursed. And I remember thinking, not today. I don't know what was going through my head. Nothing bad had happened before, but I was like, this is not happening today. And I ran after him. And I'm relatively little and very slow. So obviously I lost him. And and I was wearing heels on top of it. So I was just but every bit of adrenaline I had was running towards this guy. And I was just in shock. And then later on, after I had fully lost him, I called the police and they took forever to show up. So I called my best friend to walk me to the police station where we where we put in a report and all of that stuff. But your story just it triggered me into remembering that situation. I had to go to special victims unit over the weekend and look at mugshots and all of these things. And I just remember thinking this was happening all the time, the women, and it pissed me off. I was just so angry at the situation. So when I say I run into conflict, but it takes me a while to get there, that situation had happened a couple times to me, and it was only that one time that I leapt into conflict. I was just I was not dealing with it. Otherwise I was it's New York. What else do we expect to happen? And was kind of resigned to it. But couldn't do it.
Do you think you have that same approach to even let's say not direct, not direct assault on your person, but just a tiff or a relationship where you guys are at odds with something concerning the relationship? Do you still feel like you have that same approach where it's just no, I'm going straight to the issue. I'm going straight to the source, not beating around the bush. Let's get in and get dirty.
Sometimes. Not to make myself sound like a serial killer, but it is It is very specific to the situation. If I'm still in a phase of a relationship where I'm getting to know the person, putting my best face forward, like those kind of things, I may let a little bit more slide than I would with someone that I know very well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of natural. And also, and this is just my opinion, it's not, I don't think it's a right or a wrong, but I think that's very natural, but it's also kind of, it can be kind of not misleading, but can be kind of a setup because you want to, react and respond. But like you said, because you're trying to put forth your representative, and then over time, you're like, okay, I can let the niceties down. I can let the guard down and show them like, no, this is actually not okay. Whereas had it been done in the early stages, maybe that precedent would have already been set. But to each their own. It's easier said than done. So I definitely get you.
Yeah, I think it's a question of boundaries though. Like if someone crosses a boundary, I'll tell them. I'll say, I'll be very clear. This is a boundary that you cannot cross. And if he or she does it again, I'll tell them louder. Like it's just, and then it will escalate and then I'm straight up in a fight. So like, it really just depends on the situation and how many times I had given warnings before.
So Anjali, thank you for sharing as well. Like it's crazy that so many women and men, I'm not going to exclude men, go through these type of situations and it becomes like almost an everyday occurrence. And it's just like, how don't you respect someone else's personal boundaries and space and think it's okay? Like I never understood what goes through someone's head when they harass or accost someone. But I actually want to go over to Rhea really quickly from a professional standpoint. Let's talk about same thing, conflict avoidance styles in relationships and conflict avoiding styles just outside of relationships, like every day. Like, do they technically have to, are they usually the same, or can you have completely different conflict styles in different situations?
So I think it's very person specific, because I have seen where people typically will have the same behaviors when conflict arises at work versus when conflict arises within their family system or their friend circle. And I've also seen the opposite, where people are timid and almost avoidant in the workplace. But then as a result of not being able to speak up or advocate for self in one arena, people will oftentimes overcompensate in other areas, or you get what I'm saying, in those circles where they feel more familiar and when there is more. So very person specific, but it can go either or.
Okay. Now I see Chris, you over here scratching your face. I'm forget about you. I see you over there scratching your face. Okay, so we've heard from the ladies. We all have talked about our little experiences. Men, conflict avoidance styles in relationships. Where do you fall in the spectrum?
Well, first of all, I think I'm part of me scratching my face is because, I'm so agitated and irritated and so upset for you ladies who've had to have these experiences. So, for those fools, I'll apologize for those fools in the universe that you had to go through those kind of things. And so I don't really understand that. In general, though, I'm I think it's situational. I think it depends on what, I usually have a conflict barometer of, what situation I'm in. I think there's times that you may want to avoid certain situations. I'm not unlike Anjali, I'm really not I don't like conflict. I don't avoid it, but I don't like it. And so, I've spent a lot of time, most of my career in, fine dining, hospitality in general. So I'm always, as having been the one who is the general manager of those situations, I've often had to manage thousands and thousands of different kind of conflicts, just in whether it's employee relations, whether it's, guest services. So I've had a lot of exercises in managing different type of conflicts. And it's really interesting to see, when you're as a mediator between different things, how people like interact with each other and what conflict resolutions they have, and then what conflict resolution as a mediator that I have to implement in order for everyone to like come out feeling a certain way, and so whether it's whether it's a collaboration, getting people to collaborate in order for us to feel better, or whether it's just or being accommodating under certain situations. But it's just really kind of a situational thing.
Got it. So I know we're sitting here and you and I talk, when we talk every week, about different what the topic is and what it's going to be. We sit here and we have these topics, we address the topic at hand. We talk about the different conflicts and we're talking about different conflicts just in general. We're talking about conflicts between strangers, but we relationships.
Right.
And we all know that it's very normal to have conflicts. Like it's almost impossible not to have conflict when you're out in the world, not to have conflict when you're in a relationship. And because we're all different, we have different desires, we have different needs.
Right.
We're like bound to clash. So I want to hear from you, because usually you're the one that's running your mouth and all this. You real quiet over there. What goes on when you have a disagreement or some kind of conflict in your relationship? Like, how do you handle that?
So one of the things, and I want to kind of insert this into the conversations, we all have conflict, again, is dependent on the context of the situation. I'm more focused on, or what drew my attention was the conflict avoidance style, because I feel like those are very specific to the individual. Like we all have our coping mechanisms or ways that, like when Chris says, I don't like conflict, we have strategies to kind of get out of that. And those are definite, I guess, prototypes. And I did a little bit of research and I found that I took a quiz and I found that my conflict avoidance was dismissive. I have a dismissive avoidance style according to the online quiz. And so I kind of started thinking back, like, okay, when problems come my way in the scope of a relationship or somebody I'm with, what do I usually do? Do I take on the full frontal assault like Anjali exhibits? Do I dive right in? And I was looking back and I was like, nah, usually I kind of do have this, it depends on the severity of the issue. But I do have kind of a dismissive approach where I'm like, all right, well, they feel this way, I feel that way. And one of us is either going to kind of compromise, or it's just going to be one of us is going to have to get over it. I kind of, move in that way. And I don't know if that's healthy or not at all. I don't know if that's a correct approach, but
I don't know.
let's, I think Infantine, the man on the streets, has somebody who wants to interject. So Infantine, how are you?
You guys can hear me good?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. So let's
Okay.
let's see what's going on in the streets.
All right, so the question is pretty much, how do you deal with relationship conflict? Like when it's a problem, what's going on? Even if it's not just within a relationship, when it's outside conflicts, what's your best way to deal with conflict?
Well, I believe conflict resolution, the first step is communication. And what communication is honestly expressing what bothers you, having the other person listen intently, understanding, and then have them rebut. And then you're either going to agree to disagree or come to some kind of mutual agreement. Because I honestly don't believe in agree to disagree. That's like throwing the problem away because you don't want to deal with why we disagree. So I believe communication and honesty in communicating your issues is the main goal to conflict resolution.
Nice.
Billy Billions. You can check me on Instagram or Sold Out Entertainment. BILLE_BILLIONZ. Billy Billions.
Billy Billions.
Billy Billions. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy.
Sound like you about that life.
Billy Billions on with the Talk It Over crew, live and direct. Thank you very much.
Peace and love.
Absolutely.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Thank you. So, And you know, he's absolutely right when it comes to relationships. We say this all the time on this show. I think this step one is communication. I think everyone
talk it over.
Talk it over. I feel like most of our audience members, as well as most of our guests and co-hosts that sit on the panel with us, we're all mature enough that we got to the point of understanding, like, first things first, communication. And in communication, you're able to, you know, figure out and develop and talk through different problems that you're having. Now, you know who's been really quiet that we haven't heard from is Hassan. So Hassan, I want to bring you up to the table. You still there?
Yes.
Hassan about to drop the mic.
Yeah, because I know you always got.
Hassan about to bring the smoking.
Oh man, I mean, thanks for that. I don't know. I actually just was reflecting on this, and you know, enjoying the comments, you know, around the room. And you know, at some point in time, I employ all these techniques. Right? There's no one style, because, you know, similar to Chris, I've been in business for a long time, so I had a numerable amount of situations where I just needed to be diplomatic, right? So in terms of conflict, I brought those into all of my relationships, you know, including, you know, like 11 relationships. Like right now, you know, because I'm single, right? So just meeting someone, just getting to know someone, right? It's like certain things, like I'm like, you know what? I don't even need this shit. I'm out. You know what I mean? Whereas if I'm invested over time, you know, just depending on the situation, you know, like sometimes in the heat of a conflict, it's a good idea to, you know, take a break and come back, because in the midst of emotion, if I go in hard and that person's temperature is high, then it can escalate unnecessarily and suck out our energy, and you know, you get all these confusing feelings and everything, and it wasn't even something that's serious. It was just like amplified because of the emotions involved. So, you know, I approach it very lightly now. You know what I mean? It's like I fall back, I think about it. You know what I mean? But sometimes, you know, some things do need to be addressed in the moment. You know, and at that time, you know, I employ going right into it. You know what I mean? Compromise is, you know, it's a part of life. It's everything's a negotiation. Business is a negotiation all the time. You know what I mean? Okay, let's go to lunch. 2's good for me. Nah, 2's not good for me. Well, let's do 2:30. You know what I'm saying? You know, whatever. So now that's now. Now before it was like, oh, I don't need this. I was as a young person, I avoided conflicts because I grew up in a conflicted environment where there was always beef, and I was like, yo, I don't need this, because if I'm having a conflict, I'm ready to fight. You know, it's like, I'm like, oh, come on, like why are you just pounding me mentally, you know, for no reason? You know what I mean? It's not necessary. So every situation is unique, and every person has their own, you know, conflict resolutions, you know, and we evolve and change, and multiple of these at different times. I mean, like, stand your ground when you need to. I mean, because some things are like a deal breaker, right? You're like, yo, somebody be like, yo, I want you to go running down the street naked. You like, nah, I ain't doing that. You know, I love you, but I'm not running down the street naked for you. You know what I mean? It just really depends, you know. That's just my little piece. Thanks for
So Hassan, you actually brought up a really good point, and I'm actually going to redirect and come back to that right after this break. You know, we gotta get our sponsors in there, hear from them really quickly. So give us 2 seconds. We'll be right back. Hold those thoughts. We're coming right back to you in a minute.
Are you looking to become the best version of you, but need a little outside perspective to help you get there? Please reach out to Mind, Body, and Spirit Marriage and Family Therapy. We provide individual, couples, and family counseling. If you're looking for a down-to-earth therapist that's relatable and that you can connect to, check us out on our website, mbsmft.com. We're also on all social media outlets, on Instagram, The Black Therapist, and on Facebook and Twitter, MBSMFT. You're listening to Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed.
All right. Oh, do you want to? I know this is it's so funny sitting in the director's chair, but
You got it.
do
You got it.
do you want
You're
to
doing
bring up
good.
the topic?
So the topic is, what are your conflict styles? And more specifically, what are your conflict avoidance styles? Because I think we've already stated that conflict styles can be determined by the nature of the conflict you find yourself in. But I would like to, let's try to own this into the scope of dating and relationship. Like, what are your conflict avoidance styles when it is somebody that you actually care about in the scope of a relationship, right? And I want to see get our licensed family and marriage therapist in here and ask her, like, what are some of the conflict avoidance styles that she has seen, and whether or not is any one of the conflict avoidance styles better than another, or is it just you got to know who you're dealing with, right? Because I'm not sure. I know everybody has their own different conflict avoidance styles. They're, different people, different experiences, but is there, quote unquote, a right way to avoid conflict that helps the relationship? Rhea, you in here? You doing some research? Did I stump you?
I am. I'm looking, because Tricia, what did you have? Because what I have pulled up is direct. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's see if Infantine has anybody else that wants to speak while y'all get your thoughts together, because I'm not sure. I think Infantine, you with us?
You hear me good?
Yeah, we got
hear
you.
Yo, unfortunately, there's nobody else here at the moment, but I'd like to chime in with that.
Okay.
One thing that nobody really mentioned, like when it get real for me, like even would that be with the wife, or that I be even with situations, I'm a dude that might send up a prayer, like for real, and speak to my higher self to actually intervene. But sometimes if you deal with everything in just like that lower nature, you can definitely be ready for war. I've had even situations out in the field where somebody might want to rise up, but I had to literally like God, like Most High, Allah, whatever you feel comfortable saying, intervene in the situation for me, because I might mess it up. So sometimes don't forget that too. You know what I mean?
I like that. I like that one.
So let's go back to Rhea. Rhea, you were saying?
So I'm looking, what do you have for different styles? So
I can bring that up. I have it right here. So some of the top conflict avoidance, let's see, they say can be basically classified into 3 different, umbrella types. So you have those who ignore the problem. It says one of the most common methods of avoiding conflict is simply to ignore the problem. This way you don't have to deal with any of the outcomes. For example, one partner may suspect that their other partner is cheating on them and choose to ignore it, as if they confirm it, then now I got to deal with the dangers of, like, my partner might leave, or the issues of that. Another avoidance style is trying to change the subject. So divert attention away is another method that people use. Happily, it happens when one person doesn't want to face the conflict and chooses to try to bring in another problem. And then the third one that they list is people tend to shut down in a conflict. And they said this one can be one of the more irritating responses, because if there is something that needs to be resolved in a speedy fashion, if the other partner is shutting down, then it makes the situation worse, because now you have no help. So all those, and I don't know, I think dismissive kind of falls under maybe the ignore side. But those were the 3 that I found. But yeah, think on that, and then let's get Anjali and Hassan back in here. I saw Hassan had something he wanted to interject. Yeah, Hassan, did you have anything that you want to add?
Actually, Trish said she wanted to add something or ask me something. So
Yes. So coming back in. Okay, so right before we went back, and then we're gonna open this back up to everyone on the floor. My question to y'all is, can two people with different conflict styles have a healthy relationship? So let's say we were just reading off the avoidance styles. Can two people with two completely different avoidance styles have a healthy relationship?
I think, well, I'm gonna let Hassan speak real quickly. I think it depends on if they're in direct opposition. Like we can have different, but that doesn't mean we're opposed necessarily, right? Like we just handle it differently, but we can still be working it in our own way. But I feel like if it's just directly opposite, then nah, you can't have a health. That's my opinion. What are your thoughts, Hassan?
well, I think over time it could be catastrophic. If, someone say someone has an avoidance style and their partner, has a
Confrontational.
or stand your ground, and they're always avoiding whatever the particular conflict issue is, it could just weaken their bond and decrease their level of communication. Communication is real important. If someone's always avoiding some issues of the relationship, or some of their defects, or some of their behaviors that might have an adverse effect on their partner, then they could be sabotaging it. And then by not the couple not being able to have a discussion about it, and the person always avoiding it, it's like, what's the point? You know what I mean? We can't get around that. And after the pink cloud of the relationship is gone, it's like, what do you have?
I agree with Hassan because I mean, I'm recalling, having been in a relationship, being a person who doesn't really like conflict, but being in a relationship with someone who came in hot every time, but, trying to communicate through that. I think over a period of time, it began just to wear on the relationship, because you understood, or I began to understand, that this person, she was going to always come in hot. She was going to have a hard time letting things go or finding a compromise that was amicable. And then, then everything else then starts to fall apart at that point. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of difficult to be in a conflicting, management style of conflict in a relationship. Again, my opinion.
No,
Got it.
I'm with you, Chris. I'm with you. Yeah, that's real. That's a lot of work if you're in that kind of space. And it's because
a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Always working emotionally. You're like, damn, I don't have anything left.
Let's hear from the.
Well, what starts to happen, then you start compromising your own self and your own feelings and your own emotions, where you're just like, wait a minute, I don't even know who I am any longer, because you've worn me down so much.
Right. Let's hear from the person that said after the third time telling you she's coming in hot.
Yeah.
I want to hear from Anjali. She said, you only got one or two times. You only got 1 or 2 times for me to tell you something. Then on the third one, it's like the gloves are coming off.
Indeed. The third one, the gloves are coming off.
Right.
Now, it's interesting because for the most part, I'm kind of understanding what Chris and Hassan are talking about. I don't know if I 100% agree. And the reason that I'm thinking like that is because I am a known come in hotter human. I have a partner who is an avoidance type of person. So he doesn't always say when something is wrong, or, he avoids the situation, or he won't be as upfront or honest with me when there is something that is bothering him. And it takes a hotter personality like myself to needle him until he will just be honest and just say the truth. But when that does actually happen, yeah, a lot of extra energy is spent. I'm exhausted by the end of it, but at least we're communicating. At least we're getting to that
So you might be
No,
a real example of differing styles, but
communication.
you're
Yeah.
still having a
Wow.
healthy relationship. And it's good that you recognize the, or have found at least a workable way in the moment that you know is like, all right, I know how to get to the issue instead of just, coming in with the bazooka and just like, I'm forcing you to deal with it. Because, again, like everybody has different ways that they go about tackling issues that bother them, especially in a relationship.
So I have a question. I'm sorry.
I have a question for Anjali.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Vaughn.
I like it.
Anjali,
She wants to direct.
being that you're the alpha in your relationship, as it seems to sound, right? what might it be like if you were in a relationship with someone that was an alpha, opposed to having like beta?
Yeah, I'm sure she's already experienced that.
I have experienced that.
Yeah, I'm sure she's
not a good situation.
Two hot people.
Not well at all.
Yeah, it's two hot people. That's a war. That's a war of attrition.
Okay, so someone has to be submissive.
So it does have, when you've got two alphas in a situation, then you're just fighting all the time. Like that's all that's happening.
Well, not really, because often if you got two alphas, often one comes below the other one. It's like at some point in time you trade roles.
You do. Yeah, somebody does wind up being submissive, but if that is not a natural state for someone to be in,
can't find that balance. It's hard to find that balance. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you've got two alphas and they've spent the majority of time arguing through their relationship, and then one of them becomes submissive, that's no longer the person that you started that relationship with.
Right.
No, yes, it is.
I think we got two alphas right now in this conversation. I think Hassan recognizes himself.
Because you're still who you are. You're still who you are. And it's like, just like we all have aspects of male and female energy. We also have aspects of alpha and beta or gamma energy too. It just might not be the dominant part of us. But in order to like maneuver at some point in time, it's like
you got to know.
Relegated. We have to relegate at some point in time to just exist, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it's too much conflict, it's like, what the hell? What am I in this for? But you know what? It can exist because often alphas hunt in packs, and it'll be like two alphas. You know what I'm saying? It might be a crowd of lions, alphas, leading the pack. So
I see the validity in both sides.
Yeah,
I think that's a good example.
Alphas can work together. I think that's important. Like, I think that there's nuance there too, though, because like I'm an alpha in specific situations, but I can be a beta. I can have some gamma energy in other situations, but it's situations that I don't have as much skin in the game with. Like I'll make that decision. I'll say, you know what, I'll take the submissive side of it. Like, but if there's two alphas that believe in the opposite things and heavily believe in those opposite things and have alpha energy, I think that's where conflict really does arise. And it is very difficult to find that compromise.
Yeah, I agree. I see both points as being valid. But you're right. I think that nuances can be very challenging to find and even more challenging to maintain. Because we're humans, and sometimes we may get over one thing and think, all right, now it's not my turn to get over, it's your turn to get over one thing.
Right.
Like that kind of starts to weigh and chip away a little bit sometimes. So.
To chime in on that alpha beta energy, like for real, when we saying that, like that get a little confusing at times, but for me, I'm definitely an alpha male, but I got a strong woman. So my goal ain't necessarily to always win the conversation all the time. I might step back just to keep the family in balance. And I know that what's best for the family, I just got to chill. So being alpha, beta, whatever that, it ain't always about who's the strongest. Sometimes it's about mental strength too. You know what I mean? Are you strong enough to just sit back and relax? So you can sit back, you ain't always got to be who's the most aggressive. Sometimes you got to be like, okay, who has the most temperament to be able to sit back and make the family work in the situation.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Chime in real quick, because I think what everybody is describing is about being complementary and not competing. You can have two alphas, and that's okay. I think and whatever the style is, I think you need to realize, like, how do I complement what my partner has already come in to the table with? And it's not about, if two of you, if you have the same like personality or the same conflict style, it's recognizing that and not competing against each other. Because it's not a I win, you lose type of thing. Because ultimately it's the partnership, it's a we and it's a us. So it should be, okay, how do I come in, or how do I complement what my partner already brings, or how do I complement when we're in conflict? How do I not heighten the situation? How does my personality and how does my conflict style come in, and how does it bring resolve or resolution? And literally, like, everybody's describing being complementary. I tell people all the time, you want to be like peanut butter and jelly. You don't want a jelly sandwich. You want, as different as peanut butter and jelly are, they work well together. And that's working well together.
And that's why you are the Black therapist, because not everybody has that insight, and not everybody can. That's why you get that's why people come to you, because it's, I hear you, but in the heat of the moment, it's all these other competing factors and things in the past and all this, you know, it's very hard to overcome yourself, right? And it's one of those things where you're like, I know it, but I don't operate from it, right? It's two different, like, you can logically understand something and subconsciously operate from another place. So it's very, very, but yeah, thank you for that, Rhea. That's where we should all aspire to be.
Absolutely. So
yeah, so last thoughts.
Listen, so I love this conversation, and we say it all the time: communication, communication, communication. You know, always having the space to be able to talk to your partner. Listen, I think y'all should know by now, if you're in a relationship and you can't talk and communicate with the person that you're in, whether you guys are in conflict or not in conflict, you probably want to rethink your relationship, or rethink what it is that you're actually doing with this person, because something really isn't working here. That's my thought. I want to go to Anjali, and then we're gonna, you know, kind of grab some final thoughts from everybody here. Final thoughts, conflict resolution.
Bring the jackhammer. That's what she's gonna say.
Yes.
bring the jackhammer.
I think when it comes to conflict resolution and conflict avoidance and just conflict in general, if the goal is resolution, then it's the question of, do you lead with your id? Do you lead with your superego? Right? Like, just like Rhea said, like, it is, if you're in a partnership and the goal is to make that partnership work, sometimes resolution, to get to that resolution, you have to take different conflict resolution styles and move past conflict avoidance. And so I think if that's your goal, then a lot of that is superego. But in the heat of the moment, a lot of your id is showing, and you are just going straight into it. So it's what happens after that initial feeling of anger going out into the world. Then what do you do with it? How do you resolve all the things that you just said that was in the heat of the moment? You know, that I think is about what makes a relationship work.
Got it. It seems like Infantine has someone else from the street. So let's go to him and get some final thoughts really quickly.
Actual family here, right here. Like, what's the best way to deal with conflict within a relationship? Like, I'm sure you guys like sometimes butt heads. What's the best way to deal with it from your perspective? Talk about it, she said.
You talk about it. You started with talking about what the problem is, and you actually need to learn to know how you like to fight, how you like to argue. You need time for yourself. Are you more vocal, or what kind of person are you? And then you kind of figure out how you guys need to interact that way.
Yeah, pretty much it's going to be different for every relationship. That's the best way to do it. What works best for you?
Yep, got it.
Nice. Thank you.
I
like that.
Chris Means, let's go to you.
No,
last and final thoughts.
This is a great conversation. I think absolutely having and something else Hassan mentioned, you know, having being mature, you know, kind of helps you in being able to manage different kind of conflict. So knowledge of yourself, knowledge of the situation, and then the knowledge to know how to handle it, the best way to handle it.
Awesome. And last of all, but not least, Hassan, you know, we cannot leave without hearing some final words from you.
Yeah, conflict is inevitable, right? If we're in a relationship, there's always going to be conflict. So, you know, it's best for us to strive to be as aware as we can about ourselves, and then we're able to have better relationships with others by just understanding ourselves, you know. So it's like that always helps for me.
All right. Well, Olin, you want to take us out today?
Yes, absolutely. I think everybody here, again, I want to appreciate everybody's input. Ask a Brother Chris Means, Anjali, bringing fire, bringing the tank, Rhea with the licensed family and marriage therapist take on it. And always Hassan and Infantino is a very welcome addition to the segment. Thank you so much for being out there and getting real time feedback from people who are willing to share. And Trish, excellent job. Thank you for taking the lead on this one, taking the reins. I think it's definitely great to be able to sit back on this and just watch it. It's beautiful. So yeah, absolutely. I want to thank Anna Banana. I want to thank KI, thank Bumpy, thank all our sponsors, and thank our listeners. Thank our listeners for keeping us on our toes, and looking forward to more content, and definitely looking forward to Love Corner and getting those questions out there. I might just stop in one day. In one day and blow up your program.
Listen, stop whining at me, and Jen will love it. Listen, we it's funny and raunchy at times, so just be prepared.
Right. I might be in the audience though. I might be a guest listener on that first one. Just be like, oh wow. But yeah, appreciate you all. Make sure those clocks on the right time. In the famous words of KI, slow motion. Peace.
Peace.
I appreciate y'all for having me, allowing me to, you know, reach out and get the people involved with it too. Okay, well, we got a lot going on. Right now I'm in the field. I'm promoting a brand that I put together. You might see it on my hat. It's Timeless Masterpiece. We're doing a lot, man. We got the music. I've created an album called Timeless Masterpiece. We got the book available. And you can all see this at timelessmasterpiece.com.
Amazing!
You've been listening to Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. We hope you got what you needed. Make sure you subscribe. Holla at you next week.